Hi Year 3, right, welcome back to another week of virtual learning. It is me, Miss Shuttleworth, back again, and we are carrying on with our work to do with the clock tower. Now, last week, I got you to watch the video and I got you to do some setting description of where we are and where this clock tower is. Now, this week, we are going to be focusing on introducing a character, okay? So I've put the link for the YouTube video on this slide in case you want to go back and watch the video. I've watched it lots and lots of times because I like it, because it gives you lots of ideas, and the music sort of gets your imagination flowing as well. So that's on there. So thank you very much to everyone who has got involved with the writing from last week. We've had lots and lots sent in, so I just thought I'd put some up and share them with you. We've had some fabulous work that has been sent in through Twitter and email. So beautiful writing. I'm very impressed with that. And yeah, you've really taken on the challenges that I've given you. So well done with those. Okay, so our story so far. Often when you are writing a story, it is important that you go back and you think about what you've previously written. Okay, so the way that we do our English lessons sometimes means that we do it a paragraph at a time, and that often leads to us losing something called cohesiveness. Okay, and that is a big fancy word which basically means how your story links together. Okay, so you will know from our reading, it's really important to understand the links when you're reading something, okay, because it means that you've got this whole picture of how everything fits together. Okay, and the problem with writing a story a bit at a time sometimes means that you've forgotten how it needed to link to what was before. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go through what our story is so far, and then we're going to move on to the next bit. Okay, so this is what I wrote last week while we were working through the sentences. So I'll just read that to you and then we'll go on to the next bit. So, standing in front of green, luscious hills, there was a magical village filled with life and colour. Peacefully, balloons floated above the calm street. Before long, the golden rooftops began to sparkle in the morning sunshine. The sky was full of curly clouds circling calmly over the quiet village. The birds flew across the sky, their songs as beautiful as a lullaby. The wind was blowing across the distant hills, so the smell of grass filled the air. Okay, so we've got lots and lots of lovely setting description there. And now we're going to move on to introducing our character. So task 1, you are going to introduce the character. We're going to focus on using different ways of writing description to make our story interesting. Okay, so we've done the setting description of the village. Our next paragraph is going to introduce the tower. Then it's going to talk about the character, and then we're going to describe the character. Okay, so we've got 3 sentences that are going to move us through the next part of the story. Okay, so in the first sentence, we're going to look at describing the tower, and I want you to try and use a sentence with a noun phrase in. Okay, so a noun phrase is where you use adjectives to describe the noun. Okay, so we're going to think about what words or what phrases can we use to describe that tower. Okay, so that's using a noun phrase. Then we're going to introduce the character. We're going to try and use a sentence with some interesting adverbs. Okay, so we're going to introduce the character, but we're going to show part of her character through how she is doing things. Okay, so if she's a confident character, she might do things confidently or arrogantly. Whereas if she's shy, she might do them nervously. And if she's sad, she might do them miserably. So you can show a lot about the character as to how they do things. And then the last sentence we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more describing using some fantastic adjectives and really giving a picture of who this lady is and what she looks like. Okay, so sentence 1, describing the tower. So I've put up some pictures of what the tower looks like. If you want to go back to the video and get a really good idea of what that tower looks like, then that's also fine. But I want you to think about all of the words that you could use to describe that tower, okay, and use your imagination. It might be that you can't see certain things on there, but you want to make it sort of more your own, and you can think of any words. So I've given you some examples. shimmering, tall, twisting, magical, golden, shiny, mysterious. Okay, those are some of the words I can think of. I'm sure you can think of some much better ones and use them in your writing, but you're going to think of all the adjectives you can think just to describe that tower. Okay, and then you're going to turn it into a noun phrase describing the tower. Now, it could be a simple noun phrase with just some adjectives, or it can be an expanded one where you've given me more information as well. That's up to you. Okay, and you are perfectly welcome to steal the beginning of my sentence if you can't quite think of how you're going to start. Okay, but the only important thing you need to remember is look back at what you did in your tasks last week. So make sure that however you start this paragraph, it follows on from what you said previously. Okay, because otherwise you'll lose that cohesive link. Okay, so my example sentence: at the end of the street, there stood a twisting, shimmering tower with the most magnificent clock face and golden rooftop. Okay, so nice and simple. I've given you some adjectives to describe it, and I've also given you some information about the fact that it has a clock face and a golden rooftop. So it's given you a nice, clear image of the kind of tower that we are thinking about. Okay, so that's sentence one. You're going to describe the tower, because obviously, if we go straight from describing the village to describing the character, your reader's not going to quite know where she is. So I think you need that link of, right, we're in a tower, and then you introduce the character. Okay, so that's your first one. Think about lots of nice adjectives. Second one, we're going to introduce that character. Okay, so we're going to think about how we're going to use our adverbs. Now, the adverbs, you need to think very carefully about how you want to portray this character, and you can decide what kind of character you want her to be. Okay, she can be sad, she can be graceful, she can be calm, she can be confident, she can be nervous. It's completely up to you, but you are going to show it through those adverbs of manner, so through how she does certain things. Okay, so it might be the way she dances, it might be the way she spins, it might be the way that she moves, it might be the way that she smiles, because I know at some point in the video she smiles. It's completely up to you, but you are thinking about adverbs to describe this character. So how is she going to be doing those certain things? Okay, so we've described the tower, and now we're going to introduce the character. So it's important that you tell me where she is. Okay, so I've started with inside the tower. You are perfectly welcome to steal that. Okay, it's a nice, easy opener to your sentence. All right, so inside the tower, and then you introduce the woman and what she's doing. Okay, but if you want to really push yourself, try and think of a different way of starting that sentence, but make sure you are telling me where she is. All right, because otherwise it's not going to make much sense of you going from describing the tower to then this woman. Okay, so you need to tell me she's in the tower. Okay, so my sentence: inside the tower, watching the balloons float by the clock face, a beautiful woman spun gracefully. Okay, so I haven't given you a lot of information about her yet. I've just told you that there's a woman, she's quite beautiful, and she's spinning gracefully. Okay, so I've just introduced the fact that I'm now going to talk about character. And we know she's in the tower, and we know something of what she's doing. So she's watching the balloons and she's spinning. Okay, so if you want to push yourself, then think of a new way of starting that sentence. If you want to just steal my beginning and change the bit of how you describe her, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so we've described the tower, we've used a noun phrase, we've introduced the character with our adverbs, and now we're going to give you a little bit more information about what the character looks like. So we're going to do some nice description of what the character looks like, okay? And in this sentence, we're going to use as many fantastic adjectives as possible without sort of overdoing it. So you don't ever want a description where you've got 5 adjectives in a row, because that just sort of takes away from the importance of your description. It's much better to have a really strong, fantastic adjective and just one, rather than lots and lots of not so good adjectives. Okay, so I want you to really think about your vocabulary choices for this one. Okay, and you're just going to describe the woman. Now, it's a very short clip in the video. Okay, so there isn't a lot that you see at the beginning when she's just sort of spinning. So you're going to have to use your imagination for a bit. But you can make her whatever you want her to be. Okay, it's your character. All you need to tell me is that she's inside the clockwork of the tower. That's it. Okay, but anything else, you can make her look however you want. So try and think of some really exciting adjectives to describe her. Okay, and you can almost definitely do better than some of my examples. Okay, because I've gone quite safe with my vocabulary choices. So I've said she's pretty, she's brown haired, she's wearing round golden earrings, she's got a patterned skirt, she's got a clockwork dress, so I've described it as a clockwork dress. She's a graceful dancer. She might be quite strange if she's in the tower. She might be magical. She might be mysterious, or she might be lonely. Okay, and again, this is one of those areas where you're thinking very carefully about the vocabulary you are choosing. Okay, because you're trying to build up this picture of this character. So you're not gonna, in one sentence, describe her as mysterious, and in one sentence describe her as really happy and cheerful, because they don't really mix together. Okay, so we're going back to this link through our paragraph and through our story. If we want to make our character mysterious, that's what all our description has to be about. And if we want to make her happy and cheerful and confident, then all our description has to point to that. You have to be very careful that all of what you're doing links. Otherwise, you're going to get contradictions and it's not quite going to make sense. Okay, so try and think of lots and lots of adjectives to describe that character. Right, my example sentence. Her brown hair was tied back in a bun and she wore a clockwork dress with a beautiful patterned skirt. Okay, so just a very simple description, but I've told you quite a lot. I've told you how her hair looks and I've told you what she's wearing, and I've given you that information in a nice simple sentence. Okay, so have a go, see what you can do with that. And what you should do at the end is end up with a nice paragraph of description introducing our character. Okay, so I'm just going to read it through, because it's always good to read through your paragraph at the end and see if there's anything you can do to improve it. So, at the end of the street, there stood a twisting, shimmering tower with the most magnificent clock face and golden rooftop. Inside the tower, watching the balloons float by the clock face, a beautiful woman spun gracefully. Her brown hair was tied back in a bun and she wore a clockwork dress with a beautiful patterned skirt. Okay, now again, once I read that through, I realise that I can make some edits to make it sound better. Okay, so for example here, I've used clock face twice. So I might want to change that first one. Okay, so I've got a shimmering tower with the most magnificent clock and golden rooftop. Okay, and then that means that this clock face isn't as, it sounds much better. And you also notice I've used beautiful twice. Okay, so I can improve my vocabulary here. Okay, and I'm going to steal what I did for my example sentence at the beginning. So she wore a clockwork dress with an intricately patterned skirt. Okay, that just means sort of delicately patterned rather than beautiful. So I've changed that now, and it just sort of makes the description even better, because I've made sure that I'm not reusing vocabulary and I've really pushed myself to think of some more exciting vocabulary there. So make sure once you've read your paragraph, you are going back and having a look at editing, because it is always possible to make things better and to change words and to move things around and to have a go. And you need to not be worried about doing that, because sometimes it makes your writing even better than it was before. Okay, so that is task 1. Enjoy writing that paragraph, and then we'll move on to task 2 in the next video.